Well, hello everybody, welcome back down into the dungeon. This week we are going to try and do a little bit more of a garden-based sort of programming week, you know. I was outside just a few minutes ago, there's grass popping up in big chunks of garden, which means I've got a whole lot of weeding to do. And I was also checking on my tablet to see what the long-term weather forecast was, and I have to say there's only 2 nights in the rest of this month where it might potentially drop below freezing, and otherwise the nighttime low temperatures this month and next month are about the same. Actually, the daytime temperatures are predicted to be pretty darn close too. So now I'm sitting here going, why am I waiting so late? You know, because of that feared last frost? You know, I don't know. Those old wives' tales, a lot of them were before modern technology and weather tracking and stuff. So I think we're probably going to put some plants outside today. Good idea? Bad idea? Probably a bad idea. But I'm going to try and put out some hardier plants or some, well, disposable plants. Ones that aren't necessarily required, you know? So yeah, we're going to put a few things outside today. We're going to take a look around and kind of talk a little bit about plants. And yeah, this is going to be an interesting garden season. I think it's officially starting. This whole situation with the bottom shelf is a bit of a problem for me. It's probably part of why I'm thinking so strongly about taking some of these plants outside. That rosemary is in a fabric planter, so I mean, it's not like it's going to get flooded if I put it out, and that sage was outside last year. This mint over here, well, not technically in a draining planter, as has been discussed in quite a few comments, I can drill a few holes in that puppy and then it will be. And that would free up, you know, at least a little bit of space down here, because I'm going to have to rearrange. Either going to have to fix those lights, replace them, both, I don't know. But kind of tired of kicking this mint anyway. I have another, what, 50,000 of those cuttings? Not really, but it kind of feels like that sometimes. And, you know, yeah, this sage was already outside, so in theory should be more prepared to deal with the cold. And this rosemary was already outside, so in theory should be more prepared to deal with the cold than, say, a tomato with no place to go, or a bunch of tomatoes with no place left to grow. So yes, some herbs and possibly, oh, I don't know, maybe a container full of kale starts. You know what's fascinating about this to me is I had thought that I had lost a lot more kale starts than that, but I guess they were in fact just misplaced, buried under mint in the aquaponics and stuff. It's a fairly cold hardy plant. It can handle, you know, surviving and still growing after it's already started to snow. So I figure kale is going to be our best bet to try this early garden season adventure. This one looks like it could use a little watering, but we can take care of that outside. Yes, now I'm actually going to have to fill the aquaponics with aquaponic plants, perhaps other than mint. But yes, yes. So we're heading outside with some kale. Alright, so before we take the herbs outside, I'm going to grab another one of these 3-gallon fabric planters here that Root Pro sent me. And in my handy-dandy mixing bucket down here, I've got the very last of that perlite. I've got some vermiculite, because they had that at a near town. And then mostly I think this is just probably just peat moss. Seem to be bits of sticking amongst it, but I didn't make that. I'm just mixing it. So anyway, this is the sage from last year's garden that was brought in. That's probably still last year's garden soil in there. Time of year did I get these planters? Yeah, that probably is last year's garden soil in there. Anyway, so we're going to give it a nice transplanting. I think before we do that, though, I'm going to mix some of that, what is it, iron earth? What is this stuff? The iron earth mineral supplement that they sent me. Get a couple of scoops of that in there. Can't hurt. Yeah, mix that through. Seems to me this sage should be pretty happy once it gets transplanted. Better quality of soil, unfloodable container, Shouldn't get root bound because they grow out, right? Like that's the whole theory of the fabric pots. This should be a more productive plant, right? Right? That's the theory. See what those roots look like. Could just be me, but all in all, that doesn't really seem too bad. Could have left it in that, but after all of the flooding issues that I've had, inside and out, I just didn't want to take the chance. So, I'm going to bust this out. This must have been potting soil. There's no way this is the yard soil. So, alright, that explains why it stayed alive. Anywho, I'll take care of this boring stuff, mix that through again. Alright, most of the old soil safely in another container. A little bit of that mixed in here, but mostly we've cleaned off these roots. We are ready to go. Two-handed adventures, you know how it goes. But yeah, basically it'll look something like that when you see it next. And there it is in its new little 3-gallon fabric planter home. Hopefully it's going to do really well outside, right? That's what they say. Contains natural bound earth elements. Alright, well, we'll see. I'm prepared to give it a try, you know? So both of these plants have technically known real sunshine before, although none of these leaves have ever had to deal with that. So that's where things are going to get interesting here. But I'm going to try these out front and you know, maybe along the edge of the pier here for now. Keep them off the actual ground until things warm up a little bit. We still have lots of cleaning up to do here. Then we've got the tray of kale and one of the bush beefsteaks, I believe. I'm like, yeah, I'm going to try it. We'll see. It's probably way too soon, but we'll see. It might survive. I'm thinking, since this crate was kind of destined to be a raised bed garden anyway, that I might just lay that paper or the cardboard out in the bottom and get rid of the sticks. We'll put it down inside here and at least block a little side wind. Shouldn't get too much light, because these are under the trees at the moment, kind of blocked by the house for some hours, kind of blocked by the apple tree for a few hours and the bushes here. So hopefully just enough light to introduce it, you know, strengthen it up a little bit. But I have some tidying to do. Finally got that squirrel off the tree. Alright, so I gave it a little bit of thought, a little rearranging. I think everything's just going to start off in this little crate for now. But at least I can say I've got something outside. Is it a good idea? Probably not. Still the 1st of May, this is still Manitoba, but I do feel a little better. Sad but true. As always, we'll just wait and see and hope for the best and, you know, find out how things turn out in the end. Anyway, as I said, we are starting to work on raking these outdoor beds a little bit, and you can sort of see I've cleaned up a little bit of the tree. Something funny going on with that Ryobi chainsaw though, so I'll have to look into that, contact them, see what's up with that. Anywho, these 3 garden beds I think are going to become one long bed this year. So that is definitely a change upcoming. Shox was out here playing with the spade the other day. She says she was turning up sod for the garden, but she wandered out of here with this massive rock for the fairy garden, so I suspect she may have had ulterior motives. Got it, you know, kind of cleaned up. Lots of weeding to do. Technically I shouldn't be planting out here for another month anyway. It's just impatience that has those plants in the crate at the moment. Definitely got to do something about this year. Bunker is looking kind of nasty. Looking kind of nasty. Might be time to fill it with some soil. I don't know, maybe trim it down with some scissors. Interesting feature in the yard though. And it was definitely the first part of the garden to be revealed when the snows melted. Oh, speaking of melting snows, that has also revealed the chaos that is our onion patch back here. Clearly not cleaned up yet, but way down in the corner here we have some very persistent walking onions. already kicking it into high gear. Couple more of them down the way. So these are a wonderful plant, and I think these little guys are going to be the best option I have for an aquaponic onion, because these grow their little tiny onions up above everything on the end of their stalks, and that means the bulb is not sitting getting flooded, but it's growing, you know, up and in the air. Might be a much better option for me. Besides, these little onions are delicious when they're fresh. You cut them off, just roast them whole, pop them right in your mouth. Very tasty. But this whole patch here, pretty much everything up in front of the plywood there, and that's about where the saw defense line is, and then about there, comes back up. This is all kind of dedicated to those walking onions, Egyptian onions. Don't really know for sure what they are because they were here when we got here, but boy are they here. So need to get this cleaned up now that it's all melted and revealed. They'll start growing for us nice and quick. They have every other year anyway, so. And now that I know the best part is just eating the little onions on top, that's great, really. When we first got here, I was digging these things up and looking for the bulbs and being all disappointed because they weren't much bigger than shallots, and I'm like, well, what's the point? The thing's gone to seed. But now that I understand it's about these little ones on top, oh yeah, whole different onion gardening experience. Anywho, I think that's probably where I'm going to wrap it up today. Battery's looking a little low up there. Sure is nice to be visiting with you guys outside. Nice field behind me there. They're going to be planting that down soon enough, I imagine. So it's going to get interesting around here. A lot of activity in the spring, but that's farm living for you. So yeah, I will see you guys tomorrow. Hope you have an absolutely fantastic evening.